A very gentle welcome to you, dear listener, and a quiet word of thanks for choosing to spend this time with us here in our small corner of contemplation. It is our fondest hope that the journey upon which we are about to embark within the soft embrace of the cartography of quietude will be a balm for your spirit, a gentle pathway leading you toward the serene landscapes of peaceful slumber. For in these trying times, as the world outside often hums with a little too much urgency, finding a sanctuary for the mind is a kindness we can offer ourselves. And it is in that spirit that these words have been woven. Our purpose, you see, is a simple one: to help the gentle cadence of your breath slow, to invite your thoughts to soften like mist in the early morning light, and to allow the gentle unfolding of our tale to guide you into a state of deep and restful ease, making the passage into sleep a little smoother, a little more peaceful. Within the hidden valley of Ethelgard, where tranquility is a tangible presence and the lumina petals cast their warm, creamy glow, you will find no sudden turns or startling sounds, only the steady, comforting rhythm of a world designed for quietude. Here, the whispering grasses sigh their ancient lullabies, and the very air seems to hold a comforting stillness. Before you settle in completely and allow your device to rest beside you, if you find a measure of peace in the pathways we explore together, perhaps you might consider offering a gentle tap to the like button or subscribing to our channel. It would be a quiet encouragement to us, a sign that these gentle chronicles resonate. And now, let us draw a soft breath, release it slowly, and prepare to step across the threshold into Ethelgard, where the cartography of quietude awaits to be gently explored, and where every path leads to a deeper sense of calm. Chapter 1. The Threshold of Whispering Grasses. The path, if one could call it such, had been little more than a subtle parting in the undergrowth, a suggestion of passage rather than a clearly defined way, and Corin had followed it with a quiet sense of anticipation, drawn by an intuition too gentle to be called urgency. For many days, the world had felt indistinct, its edges blurred by a common sort of hum, the kind that settles over everything when one has walked for a long time without a specific destination, seeking only a place where the soul might draw an easier breath. And then the character of the land began to change, subtly at first, like a melody shifting to a softer key. The air itself seemed to thin, losing a certain sharpness, and carried upon it the faintest, most delicate scent of something akin to damp earth after a sun shower, mingled with a hint of unseen blossoms, so ethereal it was almost a memory rather than a fragrance. It was the sound, or rather the quality of silence imbued with sound, that truly signaled Corin's approach to what felt like a significant threshold. Ahead, a wall of tall, slender grasses rose, their plumes a soft, silvery green that seemed to capture and diffuse the ambient light. They swayed with a slow, rhythmic grace, though there was scarcely a breeze to stir them, and from their gentle motion came a sound so soothing, so profoundly peaceful, it caused Corin to pause, listening with an almost reverent attention. It was a sound like the distant ocean, not the crash of waves upon a shore, but the soft, sighing retreat of water over smooth pebbles, a continuous, lulling murmur that seemed to absorb all other noises, creating a cocoon of profound quietude. These were the whispering grasses, though Corin did not yet know their name, only felt their ancient calming welcome. Stepping between two gently parting swathes of these remarkable grasses, Corin felt an immediate shift, as if passing through an unseen curtain into another world. The light here was different, softer, filtered through a high, distant canopy of broad-leaved trees whose foliage formed a living ceiling, dappling the ground below with shifting patterns of pale, warm gold and cool lavender shadow. The air felt warmer too, and more still, holding its delicate scents close, like a secret shared. It was a quietude so complete, so enveloping, that it felt like a physical presence, a comforting weight that settled gently upon the shoulders, easing an unknown tension. Corin drew a slow, deep breath, and then another, the air tasting sweet and pure, and felt a sense of arrival, not to a place defined by landmarks, but to a state of being. Before Corin lay a small, sun-dappled clearing, the ground carpeted not with rough weeds, but with a type of low-growing, verdant plant, whose tiny, rounded leaves felt surprisingly soft and yielding underfoot, like stepping onto a well-loved rug. Several smooth gray boulders, dappled with patches of pale sun-bleached lichen, were scattered about, looking as if they had been placed there by a gentle hand eons ago, for the express purpose of quiet contemplation. One in particular caught Corin's eye, nestled at the base of an ancient tree whose bark was as smooth and gray as the stone itself. It was bathed in a warm pool of the filtered sunlight, its surface looking invitingly smooth and warmed by the day. With a sigh that seemed to carry away the last vestiges of the journey's weariness, Corin moved towards the boulder, the soft ground cover hushing each footstep. Reaching it, Corin ran a hand over its surface. It was indeed warm, radiating a gentle heat that felt deeply comforting and as smooth as time and gentle weathering could make it. Settling onto the stone, Corin leaned back against the sturdy trunk of the ancient tree, its bark surprisingly supple against the traveler's clothes. From this vantage point, the clearing unfolded like a peaceful tableau, the slow, hypnotic sway of the whispering grasses at its edge, the gentle drift of tiny, downy seeds floating on the almost imperceptible currents of air, the play of light and shadow, creating an ever-changing mosaic on the ground. A profound sense of having left the outer world with all its subtle clamors and insistent demands settled over Corin. Here, within the embrace of the whispering grasses and the soft, diffused light, the only demands were those of gentle observation, of simply being. The sounds were few and all of them soothing. The ceaseless, soft sighing of the grasses, the occasional rustle of a leaf high in the canopy, the distant, almost inaudible hum that seemed to be the very breath of this tranquil place. Corin felt the muscles in their neck and shoulders begin to soften, the gentle warmth of the stone seeping into tired limbs, and a quiet gratitude bloomed in their heart for having been led to such haven. The light began to shift, the gold deepening, the shadows lengthening, though the air remained wonderfully mild. A small, brightly colored beetle, no bigger than a thumbnail, with a shell of iridescent teal, trundled slowly across a nearby patch of ground cover, its tiny legs moving with a surprising deliberateness, a miniature marvel in this world of quiet wonders. Corin watched its unhurried progress, feeling a kinship with its slow, purposeful journey across its small patch of earth. There was no need for haste here, no call to be anywhere else. The simple act of observing its passage was enough, a quiet meditation in itself. As the moments drifted by, uncounted and unhurried, Corin felt a layer of some intangible burden gently lifting, like a soft cloak being drawn away. Each breath seemed to draw in not just air, but the very essence of the valley's serenity. The sighing of the grasses became a lullaby, the dance of light a soothing spectacle, the warmth of the stone a comforting reassurance. It was a place where one could simply be, and for now, that was more than enough. It was, Corin thought, with a gentle sense of knowing everything. Chapter 2. The Hearth of Quiet Welcome. Drawn onward not by any conscious decision, but by a gentle curiosity that seemed to emanate from the valley itself, Corin rose from the sun-warmed boulder, feeling a lightness in their limbs that had been absent for a long while. The path, still more of a subtle invitation in the landscape than a deliberately made way, meandered further into the heart of the gentle stillness, its surface now composed of smooth, cool flagstones that felt pleasantly solid underfoot. These stones, worn by time and perhaps the soft tread of countless quiet seasons, were of varying shades of gray and muted lavender, fitting together like pieces of a simple, elegant puzzle. Flanking the path, ferns with delicate feathery fronds unfurled in shades of deep, restful green, their tips still jeweled with tiny, glistening beads of what might have been morning dew, though the day was now softly waning. The air grew a little warmer, and the delicate scents of damp earth and unseen blossoms were now joined by another, fainter still, yet wonderfully comforting, the aroma of wood smoke, not acrid or sharp, but sweet and fragrant, like dried applewood gently smoldering. It was a scent that spoke of hearth and home, of simple comforts and quiet companionship, and it guided Corin onward with a gentle pull. After a few more unhurried paces, around a soft curve in the path bordered by softly rounded shrubs bearing tiny pale blue flowers, Corin saw it a small dwelling, nestled so harmoniously into the landscape it seemed to have grown there. It was rounded and low, with walls of a warm earthen hue, their surfaces hand-smoothed and showing the gentle undulations of careful craftsmanship. Its roof was made of thick, overlapping layers of some dried, fibrous plant material, the color of old straw, and from a single stout chimney made of river stones, a thin, almost translucent plume of the fragrant smoke curled lazily into the still, luminous air. A figure emerged from the low-arched doorway as Corin approached, moving with a slow, unhurried grace that seemed perfectly attuned to the valley's rhythm. It was Rowan, the gentle custodian of this small part of Ethogard, though Corin did not yet know their name. Rowan was clad in simple, loose-fitting garments of a soft, undyed woven material that flowed like water with each gentle movement. Their face, framed by hair the color of dried bracken, held a serene expression, and their eyes, the soft gray of a dove's wing, regarded Corin with a quiet, welcoming kindness that needed no words. Rowan offered a slight inclination of the head, a gesture of simple acknowledgement and welcome, and then, with a gentle smile that crinkled the corners of their eyes, beckoned Corin towards the open doorway. Stepping inside, Corin was enveloped in a comforting warmth and a gentle, complex aroma of dried herbs, warm stone, and the lingering sweetness of the wood smoke. The interior was simple but exquisitely peaceful. A small circular hearth, built of the same smooth river stones as the chimney, glowed with a bed of softly crackling embers, casting a warm, flickering light upon the hand-smoothed earthen walls. These walls were bare, save for a few bunches of dried herbs hanging from wooden pegs, their subtle fragrances mingling in the air. A low wooden table, its surface worn smooth by countless years of use, stood in the center of the room, accompanied by two sturdy, handcrafted stools. Light filtered in not only from the doorway, but also from a couple of small, deeply set windows, their openings letting in the soft, diffused glow of the valley. Rowan gestured towards one of the stools and then moved with quiet efficiency to a small alcove where a collection of earthenware pots and mugs were neatly arranged on simple wooden shelves. Selecting a sturdy, comfortable-looking mug, Rowan ladled a steaming, pale golden liquid into it from a gently simmering pot that sat nestled amongst the embers at the edge of the hearth. The fragrance that arose was divine, a blend of sweet chamomile, a hint of bright citrus, and a subtle, warming spice that Corin couldn't quite place but found wonderfully inviting. Rowan offered the mug to Corin with both hands, the warmth of the earthenware seeping through, a silent offering of comfort and hospitality. Corin accepted the mug, their own hands cradling its smooth, rounded form, and murmured a soft word of thanks, the first sound spoken aloud in what felt like a very long time. The sound seemed to blend naturally into the quiet crackle of the fire and the gentle hum that pervaded Ethelgard. Taking the slow sip, Corin felt the warmth of the herb infusion spread through their chest, a comforting tide that seemed to loosen any remaining knots of weariness. The taste was as gentle and complex as its aroma, soothing and subtly invigorating all at once. Rowan, meanwhile, had taken the other stool, holding a similar mug, and sat in comfortable silence, observing the play of firelight with a serene contentment. There was no need for conversation. The quiet welcome, the warmth of the hearth, the comforting drink, all spoke a language deeper than words. Corin felt the day's journey, and indeed the journeys of many days past, begin to melt away like snow in gentle sunshine. The smooth wood of the mug felt grounding in their palms, a simple, tangible connection to this place of profound peace. The firelight danced upon the curved walls, casting soft shadows that swayed and shifted like gentle thoughts. Occasionally, a log would settle in the hearth with a soft sigh, and a cascade of tiny bright sparks, a small punctuation in the peaceful symphony of the dwelling. Corin's gaze drifted around the small interior, noticing the little details, the way the wooden beams of the low ceiling were perfectly fitted together, the smooth, worn texture of the stone floor beneath their feet, the gentle curve of a hand-thrown pottery bowl sitting on a windowsill holding a collection of unusually shaped, smooth pebbles. Everything spoke of care, of time taken, of a deep appreciation for simple natural beauty. It was a space that held no sharp edges, literally or metaphorically, a place designed for ease and quiet contemplation, reflecting the very essence of its gentle inhabitant and the valley they tended. The only sounds were the soft crackle and hiss of the fire, the occasional gentle clink of Rowan's mug against the table, and the almost inaudible hum of Ethelgard itself, a sound that seemed to resonate from the very earth. As the warmth of the infusion spread, Corin felt a deep sense of safety, of being truly sheltered not just from the elements, but from the subtle abrasions of the world outside. The gentle weight that had settled on their shoulders upon entering the valley now felt even more comforting, like a soft, warm blanket. The light outside the small windows began to soften further, signaling the slow approach of twilight. But within Rowan's dwelling, the firelight cast a steady golden glow, a beacon of warmth and peace. Corin took another slow sip of the herbal brew, the taste of chamomile and spica, soothing balm, and knew with a quiet certainty that this was a place where healing could truly begin, gently and without effort, simply by being held in its peaceful embrace. Chapter 3, The Symphony of Lumina Petals. After a time of quiet repose by Rowan's hearth, a sense of gentle curiosity once again stirred within Corin, a soft invitation to explore more of Ethelgard's tranquil mysteries. Rowan, sensing this with an intuitive grace, merely smiled a soft, encouraging smile and gestured towards a barely visible path that led away from the dwelling, deeper into the valley's embrace. The path itself was a soft track through the yielding ground cover, almost invisible save for the slightly different texture of the plants underfoot, as if it were a way known more by feeling than by sight. Corin followed it, the air growing cooler as the last vestiges of daylight began to recede, replaced by a luminous, silvery twilight that seemed unique to this place. The subtle, sweet herbal aroma of Ethelgard deepened, now mingled with a new scent, faint at first, but growing richer with each step, a warm, creamy fragrance reminiscent of vanilla beans gently warmed by the sun. The path opened into a series of small interconnected glades, and it was here that Corin first encountered one of Ethelgard's most wondrous features, the lumina petals. These were not small, delicate flowers, but rather large, impressive plants with broad, smooth leaves of a deep, velvety green that seemed to drink in the twilight. From the heart of each cluster of leaves, a single thick stem rose, unfurling at its apex into magnificent multi-layered petals. It was these petals that gave the plants their name, for their inner surfaces glowed with a soft, warm, creamy light. This luminescence was not harsh or glaring, but gentle and inviting, pulsing with a slow, almost imperceptible rhythm, like the steady beating of a contented heart. The light they cast was soft and diffuse, bathing the glades in a perpetual gentle dawn and making the air itself seem to shimmer faintly. Corin stood in quiet awe, watching as more and more of these natural lanterns revealed their gentle light. The collective glow transformed the glades into a breathtaking scene of serene beauty, the soft light illuminating the intricate patterns of bark on the surrounding ancient trees and casting a pearlescent sheen on the feathery ferns. The warm, vanilla-like scent Corin had noticed earlier now filled the air, a comforting and sweet perfume that seemed to soothe the senses. But it was not just light and scent that these remarkable plants offered. As Corin drew closer to a particularly large cluster of lumina petals, a new sensation became apparent, a low, resonant hum, so subtle it was felt more than heard. It was a gentle vibration that seemed to emanate from the very core of the glowing petals, a sound that resonated deep within Corin's chest, loosening any lingering traces of tension, like a soft hand gently massaging weary muscles from the inside. Moving slowly from one cluster to another, Corin observed the delicate variations in their glow. Some shone with a light like clotted cream. Others had a faint rosy hue at their heart, and still others a pale golden shimmer. Each plant seemed to have its own subtle variation on the vanilla fragrance, some with a hint of spice, others with a touch of something honey-like. Corin reached out a hand, hesitantly at first, then with more confidence towards one of the broad, glowing petals. It felt surprisingly soft and yielding, like the smoothest, thickest kid skin, and radiated a gentle warmth that was deeply comforting to the touch, a warmth that seeped into the palm and traveled up the arm, bringing a sense of ease and well-being. The rhythmic pulse of light seemed to slow even further as Corin gently touched the petal, as if the plant itself were responding with a deeper sense of calm. Corin found a spot on a bank of soft, springy ground cover, settling down to simply be amongst these extraordinary living lights. The air here felt particularly still and pure, charged with the gentle energy of the lumina petals. The combined hum of the many plants created a soothing symphony, a resonant chorus of peace that vibrated through the earth and into Corin's own being. It was a sound that encouraged the breath to deepen, the mind to quieten, the body to relax completely. There were no sharp edges to this experience, no jarring notes. Everything was harmonious, soft, and profoundly calming. Even the shadows cast by the glowing flora were soft and indistinct, adding to the dreamlike quality of the scene. Small nocturnal creatures, their forms indistinct in the gentle light, moved softly through the undergrowth, their rustlings barely audible above the hum of the petals, creating a sense of quiet life unfolding all around. Occasionally, a night bird would call from the deep parts of the valley, its song a clear, melodic phrase that hung in the luminous air for a moment before fading back into the gentle symphony of the glade. Corin watched, listened, and felt, completely immersed in this sanctuary of light and sound. The warmth radiating from the petals was like a gentle embrace, the vanilla scent a sweet lullaby, the resonant hum a deep internal massage. Time seemed to dissolve, or rather, to flow differently here, marked only by the slow, serene pulse of the living lights. Thoughts, which had already grown quieter since entering Ethelgard, now seemed to recede almost entirely, replaced by a simple, profound awareness of the present moment. The beauty of the lumina petals was not something to be analyzed or understood, but simply to be experienced, to be absorbed into one's very being. Corin felt a deep sense of connection to these gentle, glowing plants, a feeling of kinship with their quiet, radiant existence. It was as if they were sharing a secret language of peace, a communication that bypassed words and spoke directly to the heart. The gentle pulsations of light seemed to mirror the slow, steady rhythm of Corin's own relaxed heartbeat, creating a profound sense of harmony. As Corin sat there, bathed in the warm, creamy glow and the comforting hum, a feeling of utter contentment settled deep within. The world outside Ethelgard, with its complexities and noises, felt like a distant memory, almost unreal. Here, in the heart of the Lumina Petal Grove, was a reality far more tangible, far more nourishing. It was a reality woven from light, warmth, scent, and sound, all conspiring to create an atmosphere of perfect, unwavering peace. Corin closed their eyes for a moment, simply feeling the gentle vibrations and the warmth in their skin, and knew that this place, this experience, would forever be etched into their soul as a benchmark of profound tranquility. Chapter 4. The Still Waters of Reflection. Following the gentle, guiding hum of the lumina petals, which seemed to grow subtly more resonant in one particular direction, Corin found the path leading onwards, if such a subtle indentation in the soft earth could be called a path. It wound through another small grove of these softly glowing flora, their creamy light casting long, gentle shadows that danced with an almost imperceptible slowness. The air here was particularly sweet, with the vanilla-like perfume of the petals now mingled with a new crisp scent, the clean fragrance of fresh water and damp, fertile earth. The ground sloped gently downwards, and the sound of the valley, already so quiet, seemed to deepen into an even more profound stillness, as if approaching a place of sacred hush. And then, parting a curtain of low-hanging broad leaves that glowed with a faint inner light, Corin emerged onto the edge of a perfectly still pool of water. It was not vast, perhaps the size of a generous room, and its shape was irregular, formed by the natural contours of the land, its edges softened by smooth, water-worn stones and clumps of gently drooping ferns. The surface of the pool was like a sheet of dark, polished obsidian, utterly unblemished by any ripple or tremor. It mirrored the scene above with breathtaking clarity. The softly glowing lumina petals that fringed its banks, the overarching branches of ancient slumbering trees, and the vast expanse of the night sky, now dusted with countless stars that shone with a soft, steady brilliance, unhindered by any worldly haze. It felt as if one were looking into another universe, a quieter, more serene reflection of the world. Corin found a large, flat stone at the water's edge, its surface cool and smooth to the touch, like ancient silk. Settling down, Corin gazed into the silent depths. The coolness of the stone seeped gently into their being, a refreshing counterpoint to the warmth experienced in the lumina petal groves. Here, the air was even more fragrant, for along the far edge of the pool grew clusters of delicate bell-shaped flowers, their petals a translucent white that Corin would later learn were ether lilies. They seemed to drink in the ambient light from the lumina petals and reflect with an even softer, more ethereal glow. From these lilies emanated a subtle, almost spiritual fragrance, clean and pure, with a hint of something like night-blooming jasmine, but far more delicate. This scent seemed to clarify the senses, making the stillness of the air feel even more profound, more breathable. The only sounds were the faintest, almost subaudible hum from the distant lumina petals, and, very occasionally, the distant melodic trill of a night bird, its call echoing softly across the valley before being absorbed into the great quiet. Corin watched the mirrored stars in the pool's dark surface, and it was as if the boundary between sky and water, between reality and reflection, had dissolved. Thoughts, which had already become so gentle and infrequent, now seemed to cease almost entirely, or if they arose, they were like fallen leaves drifting with infinite slowness upon the water's unmoving surface, observed with a detached, peaceful curiosity before vanishing without a trace. There was no urge to do, only to be. A profound sense of acceptance settled over Corin, an understanding without words that this moment, this perfect stillness, was complete in itself. The beauty of the scene was not something to be possessed or even fully comprehended, but simply to be witnessed, to be allowed to permeate the soul. The gentle coolness of the stone, the soft sigh of the valley's breath, which was too gentle to be called a breeze, the delicate fragrance of the ether lilies, the profound silence of the water, all combined to create an atmosphere of deep, meditative calm. Corin felt their own breathing slow, becoming as measured and quiet as the valley itself. There was a sensation of gentle weightlessness, as if the ordinary burdens of the body had been set aside. Corin trailed a finger into the water. It was cool, but not cold, and felt remarkably soft, like liquid silk. The surface barely stirred, then settled back into its perfect mirror stillness almost immediately. Looking down, Corin saw their own reflection, not as a sharp image, but as a softened, more tranquil version, bathed in the gentle light of the surrounding flora and the distant stars. It was a peaceful visage, one that reflected the serenity of Ethergard itself. A gentle awareness arose of how the quietude of this place was not an emptiness, but a fullness, a presence that nourished and restored. Time here had no meaning. Minutes or hours might have passed as Corin sat by the still waters, lost in the tranquil beauty of the reflected cosmos and the gentle embrace of the valley's peace. The focus was entirely on the present moment, on the subtle sensations, the coolness of the stone, the delicate scent of the lilies, the soft glow of the petals, the profound silence. It was a state of being fully present, fully immersed, a quietude of the mind that mirrored the stillness of the pool. The peace was so deep, so encompassing, it felt as if Corin had become a part of the landscape itself, another quiet element in Ethelgard's harmonious design. A single luminescent petal, perhaps dislodged by the passing of some tiny nocturnal creature, drifted slowly from a nearby lumina plant and landed with almost impossible gentleness upon the surface of the pool. It floated there, a tiny beacon of soft light on the dark water, its reflection equally perfect below. Corin watched it, this small, beautiful event, and a gentle smile touched their lips. It was a perfect encapsulation of Ethelgard's magic, simple, beautiful, and profoundly peaceful. The sense of being present, of quiet acceptance, deepened further, rooting Corin in a state of serene contemplation that felt as ancient and enduring as the stones and stars themselves. Chapter 5. The embodiment of Ethelgard's peace. Corin awoke slowly, not to the insistent call of a new day, but to a gentle continuation of the profound peace that had cradled them through the hours of deep rest. It was not clear whether sleep had come by the still pool under the starlight or later upon a bed of the softest fallen leaves in a sheltered alcove nearby, for the transition had been as seamless and gentle as the flow of Ethelgard's own serene energies. What was certain was the feeling of utter replenishment, a sense of being suffused with a quiet light from within, as if the very cells of their body had absorbed the valley's tranquility. There was a gentle weightlessness in their limbs, an effortless ease in each breath, and a profound quietude residing in the mind, a stillness that felt as natural and deep as the reflective pool. The early morning light in Ethelgard was a marvel in itself, a soft, pearlescent luminescence that filtered through the high canopy, even gentler than the twilight, carrying with it the fresh, clean scent of dew-kissed earth and the awakening flora. The lumina petals still glowed with their soft, creamy light, though their pulse was perhaps a little slower, their hum a little deeper, as if they too were slowly stirring from a night of peaceful radiance. The air was cool and sweet, alive with the distant melodic chirping of unseen birds celebrating the new day, their songs weaving into the constant soft sigh of the whispering grasses at the valley's edge, a sound that had become a comforting, ever-present lullaby. Corin moved with a newfound slowness, an unhurried grace that mirrored the valley's own rhythm. Every sensation was gentle, every sight a soft wonder. Making their way back towards Rowan's dwelling, the smooth flagstones felt cool and reassuring underfoot, and the feathery ferns lining the path seemed to nod a gentle greeting. Rowan was already tending a small patch of herbs near the cottage, their movements economical and serene, a picture of harmonious living. A soft smile of welcome was exchanged, a comfortable understanding passing between them without the need for many words. Rowan offered a warm bowl of lightly sweetened grain porridge, fragrant with wild berries and a hint of spice, and they ate together in companionable silence, on a smooth wooden bench outside the dwelling, feeling the gentle warmth of the nascent sun on their faces. The world of Ethelgard, with its soft lights, its gentle sounds, its comforting scents, and its smooth, yielding textures, felt less like a place Corin had merely visited, and more like a state of being that had been absorbed, that had become an intrinsic part of their own essence. The peace was no longer just an external atmosphere, it was an internal landscape, a quietude that now resided deep within. Corin felt this in the easy way their shoulders rested, in the slow, steady rhythm of their heart, in the calm clarity of their gaze as they observed a tiny, iridescent beetle making its patient way across a sun-dappled leaf. As the morning wore on, a gentle knowing settled within Corin that the time for departure was drawing near, not as an ending, but as a quiet transition. There was no sadness in this, only a deep sense of gratitude for the sanctuary found, for the profound restoration experienced. Rowan, with their usual quiet perception, seemed to understand. They pressed a small, perfectly smooth gray stone into Corin's palm, a stone from the edge of the reflective pool. It was cool to the touch, its surface like worn silk, a tiny piece of Ethelgard's tangible peace to carry forth. May the quietude of the valley always find a way to whisper to you, Rowan said softly, their voice like the gentle rustle of leaves. Standing once more at the threshold of the whispering grasses, ready to step back into the world beyond, Corin paused. The tall, silvery green plumes swayed their eternal gentle welcome and farewell, their sighing song a promise of enduring peace. The air of Ethelgard, laden with the scent of damp earth and distant lumina petals, felt like a final soft embrace. Corin took a slow, deep breath, drawing that peace, that scent, that sound into the very core of their being. The peace of Ethelgard was not being left behind. It was now an indelible part of them, a gentle hum in the heart, a soft light behind the eyes, a quietude that would subtly color their perception of whatever lay ahead. Stepping through the grasses, the transition was as gentle as the arrival. The world outside felt subtly different, or perhaps it was Corin who had changed. The indistinct hum that had once felt pervasive now seemed more distant, less intrusive, softened by the deep inner stillness cultivated in Ethelgard. The light seemed a little brighter, but not harsh. The sounds a little clearer, but not jarring. The small, smooth stone rested comfortingly in Corin's palm, a quiet reminder of the valley's enduring embrace, a talisman of tranquility. The journey ahead was unknown, but Corin carried within a new map, a cartography of quietude learned not from charts or words, but from the deep sensory immersion in a place where peace was the very essence of existence. And with a soft, almost imperceptible exhalation, like the valley itself breathing out, Corin stepped forward, carrying the heart of Ethelgard into the gentle unfolding of the path beyond.